Hello, I'm Billy, 28 years old. I tied the knot with my husband, Carl, 2 years ago, but things have been far from easy, mainly because of his mother, Helena. Carl and I first met by chance at a bar. It was one of those right place, right time moments. We clicked right away, swapped numbers, and ended up texting each other nonstop, even pulling all-nighters talking until 5 a.m. We didn't define our relationship immediately, but over time, we grew closer and eventually made it official. While things with Carl were going well, the real challenge came from his mother, Helena. She's a force to be reckoned with and always got her way, even if it meant using manipulative tactics. While her determination was impressive at times, it became a problem when she started targeting me. Helena never liked me, convinced that I was after Carl's wealth, despite the fact that I actually earned more than he did. She didn't hide her disdain, often being rude and insulting behind my back. Her attempts to sabotage me ranged from tripping me on purpose to spilling drinks, both cold and scalding, on me. At first, I chalked it up to accidents, but the recurring pattern made it impossible to ignore. I decided to talk to Carl about it, expressing my concerns. He firmly believed his mom just needed more time to warm up to me and brushed off my worries as overreactions. He assured me that she loved me and would come around eventually, even though I wasn't entirely convinced. Still, I decided to trust his judgment and put up with Helena's antics. I made sure to be on my best behavior whenever she was around, hoping that, as Carl had said, she would eventually accept me. I kept a low profile during my visits, speaking only when spoken to, feeling like I had traveled back in time to the 18th century, but I was determined to do whatever it took to win Helena over. Then, one day, something unexpected happened. Helena called me directly, which was unusual since she normally contacted Carl. I answered, unsure of what this sudden move meant. "Hey, Helena, everything okay?" I asked cautiously. "Oh, yes, I just wanted to know if you're free this weekend," she said casually. "Sure, why?" I replied, surprised. "Well, I was thinking maybe we could go out together," Helena suggested. "Just the two of us?" I asked, bewildered. "Yes, I know I've been hard on you, but I want to make it up to you," she said. "All right, where and when?" I asked, still processing the surprise. "I thought we could have lunch at Sand at 1 p.m. It's my favorite spot," she replied. "Sounds fancy," I said, feeling a mix of nerves and excitement. "Oh, it is, so make sure to dress well," she teased. "I will. See you there," I replied before ending the call. I could hardly believe it. Helena wanted to spend time with me? It seemed odd, but I was hopeful that all my efforts were finally paying off. Despite the tension, maybe she was warming up to me after all. I told Carl, and he was relieved that the two most important women in his life were finally getting along. As the weekend approached, I eagerly prepared for our lunch date, carefully selecting an outfit. When the day came, I chose a stylish pantsuit that Carl assured me Helena would approve of. Upon our arrival, Helena gave me a scrutinizing look at my outfit, but didn't comment. I remained optimistic, happy she wasn't criticizing me. Once seated at the restaurant, our waitress came over, and I immediately recognized her name tag, Daisy. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Daisy was my best friend from childhood. We had been inseparable back then, practically sisters. But after her family moved away during 7th grade, we lost touch. The memories of our time together flooded back, and I was stunned to see her after all these years. As Daisy took our orders, I noticed a subtle recognition in her eyes. We exchanged pleasantries, but when she bent down to check our orders, she accidentally spilled water on me. Apologizing profusely, she quickly left a note on my pants. I glanced up at her, confused, but she subtly nodded toward the note as she dabbed at my lap. Curious, I read it discreetly, and it said I needed to meet her in the washroom. I excused myself, perplexed, and made my way there. A few moments later, Daisy walked in, making sure the stalls were empty before pulling me into a tight hug. I returned the embrace, equally shocked and happy to see her again. "Is everything okay?" I asked, noticing she looked a little uneasy. "I'm fine, but you're not going to be," she replied, her face serious. She told me she had overheard Helena talking about poisoning her daughter-in-law's food with something she knew I was allergic to. What, that's your mother-in-law? I asked in disbelief. Yes, and I'm pretty sure she was talking about you, Daisy confirmed, looking around nervously. What do you mean? I asked, stunned. I overheard her plotting to poison her daughter-in-law. I'm warning you, just in case, Daisy urged, her expression tense. Are you sure? I asked, trying to process it. Daisy pulled out her phone and showed me a recording she had secretly made. In the video, Helena and her friend Betty were speaking cruelly about me, calling me a disrespectful daughter-in-law and mocking my efforts to gain Helena's approval. Helena even talked about adding crushed peanuts to my food to provoke an allergic reaction and create a scene. Watching the footage made my blood run cold. It was clear that Helena had been planning to trigger anaphylaxis, and I was the target. I was beyond grateful to Daisy for the warning. She told me she was just looking out for me, and we exchanged numbers. I thanked her again, and we agreed I would use her as an excuse to leave. I left a generous tip as I made my exit, shaken but thankful for Daisy's timely intervention. I returned to our table where Helena was visibly frustrated and agitated. She immediately commented on my appearance, accusing me of looking as though I had wet myself. I explained that the waitress had apologized for the spill, brushing it off as a minor issue. Despite Helena dismissing the waitress's gesture, I used the wet pants as an excuse to leave. She insisted I stay, but I explained my discomfort with the cold air conditioning and my concern about getting sick. I apologized, stating that I had to leave immediately. Helena, clearly upset, tried to guilt me for leaving after she'd invited me to spend time with her. I remained firm, explaining it was out of my control, and left, urging her to enjoy the rest of her evening. I left quickly and drove straight home. On the way, I stopped at a gas station to urgently text Daisy, asking for the video of Helena plotting her plan. Daisy quickly responded, and with the evidence in hand, I resumed my journey. When I arrived home early, Carl was surprised, considering how eager I had been earlier. Without saying a word to him, I went straight to the bathroom, feeling the need to wash away the situation, concerned that Helena might have contaminated my clothes or hair with crushed peanuts. I scrubbed myself thoroughly, repeating the process 3 times. Once done, I tossed my clothes in the laundry and washed my hands. Carl watched quietly from the corner, waiting for me to finish. After I cleaned up, Carl gently prompted me to explain what had happened, apologizing for my earlier paranoia. I told him I had bumped into an old friend who worked as a waitress at the restaurant. Carl listened, confused, as I explained Daisy's warning about Helena's malicious intentions. Still skeptical, Carl asked for proof, so I played him the recorded conversation. As the video played, Carl's expression shifted from confusion to shock, realizing the depth of his mother's malice. The memory of my previous hospitalization from peanut ingestion resurfaced, deepening his horror. Apologizing profusely, Carl expressed regret for not taking my concerns seriously before. I appreciated his sincerity and accepted his apology, letting go of any lingering resentment. I understood Carl's disbelief. Who could imagine their own mother would try to hurt their spouse? We discussed Helena's plan at length, agreeing that we should avoid seeing her in person ever again to prevent further harm. That night, Helena called Carl to complain about my early departure. Carl was ready for her. "We need to talk about your wife," Helena began. "Yeah, we do. What do you have to say?" Carl responded. "That wife of yours is so disrespectful. She left early after I took time to spend with her. How dare she? You need to leave her if she can't respect your mother. Is she really worth it?" Helena insisted. "Why should she respect my mother when my mother tried to poison her?" Carl shot back. "What? I can't even. What are you talking about?" Helena denied everything. "I have a video of you talking about putting crushed peanuts in her food with Aunt Betty. Whether it was a joke or not, it was sick. I'm glad Billy got out of there quickly. We never want to see you again. We can talk on the phone, but if you show up, we'll release the video and get a restraining order. Goodbye, Mom." Carl firmly ended the call. Carl's firm stance was a relief, and he voiced the things I had wanted to say to Helena all along. Helena kept calling and texting, calling me all sorts of names. Carl would occasionally answer, listening to her accuse him of siding with my lies. but he always managed to end the conversation. At first, I didn't think Helena would respect our boundaries, but she stuck to calling and texting for months. Just when we thought we were in the clear, she showed up at our house uninvited. Her constant ringing of the doorbell and yelling became unbearable. Eventually, Carl, annoyed by the noise, opened the door. Helena pushed past him and entered the house. I kept my distance, wary of her anger and potential for causing trouble, though I couldn't resist observing the confrontation. "Mom, what are you doing here? Didn't we?" "Don't start with me, Carl. I'm your mother, and I have a right to know what's going on with your life." "Sure, but you've never actually asked. You've just given me your opinions on my wife." "They're not opinions, they're facts." "I'm sorry I ignored your calls, but you need to leave now." "I'm not leaving until your wife comes here and apologizes for defaming me." "Defaming? She hasn't done anything like that. How can you defend her against your own mother?" "I didn't at first, but then I saw the proof, and I couldn't side with you anymore. So, leave, please." "That proof is made up. I would never try to poison her." "I'm asking you to leave again, or I'll call the police." Helena refused to go, escalating the situation by accusing me of destroying the family and threatening to make me regret it. Fearful, I was relieved when Carl called the police, who escorted her away. We filed for a restraining order soon after, determined to keep her out of our lives. Helena kept claiming I had slandered her to the police, and it hurt, especially since I hadn't done anything to deserve her animosity. Carl's relatives, believing Helena's version of events, began criticizing us. In response, Carl created a group chat, shared the video of Helena's plan to poison me, and explained my severe peanut allergy. The relatives apologized and directed their anger at Helena. Helena, still unwilling to take responsibility, accused us of defaming her again, flooding our phones with messages. After several tough months, we chose to move on, blocking her on all platforms and cutting contact completely. I was thankful for Daisy's support in the whole ordeal, and we rekindled our friendship. With Helena out of our lives, things have started looking up. We're hopeful for a brighter future ahead. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. Stay tuned.